Happy Monday, people, and welcome to the week with Countdown to Classic. This is a podcast that educates, informs, and gossips about World of Warcraft Classic. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we discuss the news, hot button issues, and content of the highly anticipated World of Warcraft Classic. I'm your host, Josh Corbett, and thank you for joining me here on Countdown to Classic. Now, normally, being a Monday, I would go through the forums and discuss a few topical issues with you all, but unfortunately, I was a little bit under the weather today and have summoned all the energy I have left for this brief, bombastic introduction. However, whilst I couldn't quite muster the energy to do a regular Monday show, it's a good thing I've got a boatload of interviews queued up that I've conducted over the last 3 weeks. So you'll be getting 2 interviews this week, today and Wednesday. And these hour-long interviews feature absolutely anyone who has something meaningful to say about World of Warcraft Classic. I sit down with a range of different voices, from the proverbial person in the street players all the way to well-known community figures. These interviews that you'll hear on the show are the very first time I've actually had a voice conversation with the subject of the interview, which is why you'll usually hear it takes about 10 minutes to warm up as we feel each other out a little bit. None of the questions asked in these interviews have been pre-screened with the subject of the interview. Whilst I ask for suggestions on what the interviewee would like to discuss on the show, they're actually hearing the questions for the first time. So all answers and responses are genuine and in the moment. Finally, absolutely no favours or payments have been exchanged in return for an interviewee's appearance on the show. So there's no favouritism or shenanigans going on behind closed doors. Please do stick around through the entirety of the show, as towards the tail end of the interview, I put the interviewee through a few fun hypothetical questions. But also, once the interview is done, I'll bring you this week's edition of Calling Countdown, where I play the calls that the show took from you, the listeners, during the week about any World of Warcraft related topic that you wanted to get off your chest through the week. This could be a response to something raised on an earlier episode of the show, or just thinking out loud about something within the game. If you would like to be featured on this segment in the future, then please email me at feedback@countdowntoclassic.com, or join the show's fantastic Discord and PM me there. You can find the link for that in the show notes or on the website. Now, this week I sat down with YouTuber The Big Fish to talk about coming into WoW at a young age and MMO history, as well as WoW's effect on the genre overall. So let's get started with this great in-depth interview. Today on Countdown to Classic, we're sitting down with World of Warcraft and MMO YouTuber The Big Fish. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Now, what we do here on the show is, if people aren't familiar with your work online, then I go through a quick little segment to start with called Resume in 2 minutes. So you happy to play along?
Yeah, sure, man. Of course.
All right. Question number 1. With as much specificity as you're comfy with, where in the world are you from?
Yeah, I'm from Canada, Saskatchewan. That's as far as I go. It's the cold prairie province right in the middle, north of North Dakota. And yeah, that's why my internet's bad.
All good, all good. And how long have you played World of Warcraft?
I think 2007. Since then, so 11 years.
Okay. And what was your original main character's name?
This is a classic Ugly Tusk, the Troll Hunter, because when I first made him, I thought that the tusks were ugly, but I liked Horde for some reason, so I named him Ugly Tusk. Because I wanted to tell everyone, like, I know the tusks are ugly, right? I had to make sure I knew that as well. I wasn't, like, picking him because I thought it looked cool.
For sure.
I just picked it for the racials, right? I'm like, oh, man, that bow skill, yeah.
And did you level any other classes up to level cap?
Actually, I never hit level cap. I was really bad at the game. I never hit level cap until Wrath of the Lich King, and it was around Trial of the Crusader. I think that was out. And I played I mainly just leveled a bunch of alts and played with my friends at like level 20. We ran dungeons and just messed around and leveled characters together. And I was really slow. So, yeah, I was bad at the game. I never made it to max level, like I said, until TOC.
And which server did you play on?
North American Realms Lane, LLANE.
Do you prefer PvP or PvE servers?
Well, I played Lane is a PvE server, right? And I also play on a PvE server. I think this one, the one on the private server, if I'm allowed to mention.
Yeah, sure. No, absolutely.
The undocumented servers is a PvE server as well, and I regret rolling there every day. I'm a PvP player. I never realized how much I love world PvP until I tried it, and yeah, basically PvP all the way.
Sure. What's your highest raid experience?
Well, I mean, like I've done Blackwing Lair and vanilla private servers, which isn't really high tier or anything. It's pretty easy. But my highest rating experience would probably be Mythic and Legion. I rated Mythic. We got Mythic Xavius ahead of the curve, and we got Heroic Gold down, and we were about to go into Mythic, but I quit the game because I was at like 36 artifact power or something, and everyone was like 10 higher than me, so my DPS fell off, and I didn't want to farm it. And I just hated doing 5 mans over and over, so I just quit the game and started playing on Elysium.
Okay. Might seem like a silly question, but are you currently still playing World of Warcraft, and where?
I am. I do Project 80 twice a week with the Classic Boys, Tips Out S-Fan fans, Tips Out fans, and Crom fans, which he's a Twitch streamer. And basically we just lock our XP at level 80 and clear the content and try to keep our gear around the patch level as it was intended. And I'm also I have a 58 on Project Ascension, custom server, which is kind of fun to play on. And I mean, I've been really inactive on Lights Hope, but I still kind of log in every now and then just to check things out.
Okay. And do you have a quick plug for any YouTube channels or any content that you might do? Where can people find you online?
Well, if you must know, youtube.com/thebigfish, classic WoW and more. I am also on Twitch TV /thebkbigfish.
Final question for completing your resume. All right, finish this sentence so we know where your allegiances lie. For the
Horde.
There you go. All right. Now, just to let the listeners know, I came across you recently over YouTube. A lot of the listeners know that I do consume a boatload of YouTube and forum material in preparation for the show. And I just tripped across your channel quite recently, and watching a couple of your videos, I was surprised, not in throwing shade at you, but I'm hard to get a laugh out of, genuinely. And I found myself laughing at a lot of your material. And you're a much younger man than me, and it just got me thinking about, wow, like there is this sort of whole humorous side to WoW and this lighter side of the game that I guess the younger generation really does love. So I really wanted to start speaking to you, and thank you for being so gracious to come on the show, about what are your thoughts just generally to start off with about the role that humor has to play in a game like World of Warcraft?
Well, I think one of the main problems is everyone takes the game so seriously. They think it's like some super important, life-changing experience, and like it's like they replaced the progression in their real life with a video game progression. And I know I've done stuff like that as well. But I kind of just don't like taking things too seriously. I kind of like just joking around and trying to take the quote unquote take the piss out of everything, as my UK friends would say. And yeah, that's basically what I love to do, just satirize things and mock things and basically be a cynical asshole.
Well, you've used that term, cynical asshole. Is that something that you're sort of more than happy to self-identify as at times?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the truth. I tend to look on a negative side, but I kind of like, instead of like just getting mad about it, things I find negative, I kind of just make fun of, and that's what a lot of my videos are. I just kind of make fun of vanilla PvP, even though I really like vanilla PvP. It's still stupid, so I just kind of, it's certain aspects of it that irritate me when I'm playing, so I just kind of like, I take that small little thing that I dislike and I blow it out of proportion and make a mockery of it.
And do you find that PvP is the most fertile ground for having a bit of fun with the game?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, there's raid. I feel like if I wanted to have fun in a vanilla raid, I would have to create the guild myself. It would have to be like a meme spec build, which I plan on doing for Classic WoW. I want to create a raiding guild based around boomkins, Ellie shamans, slam warriors, death wish sweeping strikes warriors, and all the wonked out specs you can find.
Right.
And just try to clear the content with no world buffs. See how fun that could be.
So, being somewhat of having this irreverent sort of slapstick style to the game that you do, are you able to, when you're out there in the world and you're engaging, let's say, in some world PvP, if you were to get taken down, are you able to take a step back and see the funny side of it, or do you still find yourself getting quite wound up in it?
It depends. If I like, a lot of times I'll laugh about it, but sometimes I get really frustrated playing a warrior and I don't have any free action potions, or I'm out of grenades and there's a frost mage. I'll get pretty irritated, right? So I do kind of get into it. I'm pretty competitive at nature, and I love winning. Like there's no better rush for me than winning in a game, or just winning in general. But I hate losing even more than I like winning, right?
And yeah, obviously a lot of people generally feel that way. Now, you seem to be the kind of person who, judging by some of your videos that you've uploaded to YouTube, just keeping on this line, it doesn't seem like you're overly shy in showing some of the moments that you do fuck up. Would that be right in saying?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I don't have any problems admitting I mess up. I include myself dying a lot in videos. And yeah, I mean, I'm not even that good of a player, so I'm not going to hide the fact that I get shit on a lot of times.
Do you find that being, as I mentioned, I presume, I haven't asked you how old you are, but I presume that you're a fair bit younger than me. But do you find that coming across against other players in the game and in speaking to other people, there is a bit of a divide between the older players and the younger players and how they treat the game?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I would say the main two demographics are almost exclusively, there's like the university age kid, which I fall into, even though I'm not in university. So I'm 20, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say on private servers, I would say there's more people 18 to 24 in that age group. And then there's also quite a few people that are like in the 30 to 30 or 30 to 40 age group. So I'd say those are the two main age demographics. And like I have some people who I talk to and send me messages still from Darrowshire. One of them's he's a 30, I think he's around 33 or 34. He's a retired cop, and yeah, he just thought he doesn't like all the super hardcore try hard 22-year-olds who kind of like shit talk, and flame.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of like that, but I don't take it as seriously, And it seems like the 22-year-olds or like the younger audience from 18 to 24 kind of want to min-max the game. They're like way more likely to try to just meticulously min-max and do everything perfectly instead of just having fun with the game. I mean, I guess but I shouldn't say it like that. Maybe like a lot of people find that aspect of the game that's what makes it fun for them.
Mm-hmm. If you had to step up and just for one moment sort of speak up for, as you put it, that kind of shit-talking group of young punks that play World of Warcraft, and then you got the guys like me who are the older guys who are shaking their fists yelling, "Get off my lawn." If you had to sit up and defend your group, your age demo of the players, what would you say that's misunderstood or that you particularly enjoy about your demographic?
All right, so I myself am a trash talker. I love trash talking. That's why I quit League of Legends, because they crack down on trash talking. I find the whole aspect of it's just banter. It's in-game banter. It's fun. Like when I'm hanging out with my friends and we're competing and we're playing Smash Bros, I'm gonna yell at him and call him names, and it's just in a friendly manner. And I just really like the atmosphere of basically shit posting, and I just find it very I don't know why I find it funny, just seeing like all these people posting the same jokes, not necessarily copy pastes, but the same style of joke and just flaming. And a lot of times the flaming, I feel like people take the flaming too seriously, Like they get really wound up and they take it like a personal insult. I mean, you can really just put someone on ignore or mute them if you really are getting, or if they're actually harassing you. But a lot of times someone will just type like the most ridiculous, like the most absurd insult that you can't take. It's like complete. You can tell they're just being satire, and some people will take that seriously and get all worked up over it, even though it's the most absurd thing you could say and doesn't even really make any sense.
You mentioned that you're 20 years old now, and in respect of the fact that, no disrespect, but you are still relatively young, but you've been playing the game for some time. Surely, as time has gone on, has the way in which you shit talk or talk to people through the game matured in some way over time? Has it changed?
Yeah, I usually just I usually I usually just call someone bad at the game. That's pretty much it.
Fair enough.
Or like if I'm in a party with my friends, I'll like shit talk them in global chat. Say like for an example, League of Legends. If we're in a 5-man squad, like I don't play anymore, but this was back in the day, like a year or two ago, I would just completely flame them the whole game. And I actually got banned for that because I was flaming my friend who I was dueling with as a joke, and the other people on the team reported me, and I got chat restricted for like 30 days, and I was reading the chat logs and I was just laughing hysterically.
Have you said anything in the past that you look back on and regret now with the viewpoint that you have now?
Oh, well, definitely. I'm pretty sure everyone has, right? I've said my fair share of pretty bad things on the internet, and yeah, it just comes from being an angry kid growing, like most people are nowadays, from in their late teens. You're angry, you want to be you're angry, you want something to blame it on, so you say some nasty stuff, but at the end of the day, I don't really think it's worth a lot of times people who say that stuff don't necessarily even mean it.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they do, I mean, is it really worth digging up and trying to ruin everything they've built over?
Sure. Now, you mentioned that it's not just World of Warcraft that you fell in love with. It's sort of, and judging by your channel, it seems to be the case that MMOs in general are kind of your passion. Would that be fair to say?
I would say that, just MMO and like, honestly, just RPGs in general, but I really like the multiplayer aspect. So, I mean, MMO would be a pretty valid thing to say. Yeah.
So which games outside of World of Warcraft have captured your heart over the years?
Well, starting off, basically the first, well, I could start from the GameCube and Game Boy Advance years of my gaming, or I could start from when I started on PC. What would you rather have?
Well, let's go with, let's say, the PC MMO angle. What really got you started there?
All right. So basically, I think it was like I was in second grade or whatever, or first grade, and everyone was playing RuneScape. And all my friends were playing RuneScape. So I log in. I had a terrible old computer. I make an account, and I realized there's like all these people in this world. So from that point on, I basically played RuneScape nonstop with my friends, and I was bad at the game once again. I never got my attack stats past 35 before quitting, forgetting the account, and then making a new one. And I just played that pretty much off and on with my friends. We'd make new accounts all the time, keep playing that, and eventually I was at like a gaming, what's it called? Like a computer cafe, pretty much would be the best way to describe it. It was called The Matrix, and I was sitting there. My mom used to take me there, and because we like going there with my friends. So we were sitting there playing games, and some guy behind us is playing World of Warcraft. And I remember him, like, this was back in Burning Crusade, right? I think Burning Crusade had just come out. He was a level 55 paladin human in Darnassus on the bridge that goes over the water. And I was just watching him play the game, and he was kind of talking about it. And I remember he logged out, and he was on his character screen. He was like, man, I really wish you could make gnome priests. I would play a gnome priest so bad. And funny enough, that came in Cataclysm, right? So I got my mom. She got the game for us, and my brother and I, in Christmas it was 2007 Christmas time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was. Or was it the year before? It was either 2006 or 2007 Christmas time. And basically, I played WoW from then all the way until now. And I've tried a bunch of MMOs. I've tried Terra. I've tried Guild Wars 2. I didn't like Guild Wars 2. Terra was all right, but I never really stuck with it. I tried Arcade. I got to like level 45. I just quit. I don't like the East Asian MMOs. And the one I liked the most was WildStar. But I had no one to play with, so I just, like, it's not fun playing MMOs alone, really, in my opinion.
No, definitely. I don't think it's conducive to the genre at all. But the one thing you said that really just grabbed me then, just very quickly, you mentioned that you started playing in the first grade. And that's something that I don't like. You hear people starting young, but that is by far for me the youngest I've heard. What could it possibly have been like playing an MMO at like RuneScape at such a young age?
Well, I mean, all my friends were playing it, so basically, I guarantee you, there's a good chunk of people at the time that were my age, and basically, I would just walk around, and I mean, it's so simple. You just click, right? You click. I would fish. I would just train combat. I talk with my friends. I'd buy girlfriends, the usual stuff. And this was before the GE, so this game, RuneScape, taught me how to type fast. RuneScape, I love that game. I always want to play it again, but I don't know. It's just not the same. I don't know why. Like I always play it, and I'm not really into the grind anymore. I just want to play a game where I can hang with my friends and do the guild of, or do multiplayer events. And RuneScape's kind of a more solo MMO where you kind of do your own thing, and then you meet up with other players. You trade and barter, and then you go back and do your own thing.
So then, flowing on to when you started in World of Warcraft. Sorry, you might have mentioned exactly how old were you when you started WoW?
I think I was in the 5th grade. It was Christmas time of the 5th grade. So I was,
about 10, 11 years old?
Yeah, I think I was 11. I was 11.
Okay. So even then, being at that age, I know it's not like you're a baby or anything, but do you feel looking back that you had a strong grasp on what was happening in WoW at that age?
No, I didn't get good until Cataclysm. Once Cataclysm hit, I was pretty good. That's when I got good at the game, right? I did arenas and stuff. I didn't talk on voice because I was a squeaker, and I still a little bit of that left, but what can you do? So, no, at that age, I was just terrible at the game. I typed like a moron. And I would call everyone noob, and I'd swear at them because I was a kid, the usual.
Sure. But now I guess that sets up the situation where you really have grown up with World of Warcraft coming in at such a young age. So I know you mentioned before that you feel that, whether you're being showing a bit of humility or not, that you say that you're not the greatest player in the world. But having spent so much time and growing up with the game, surely by this stage you feel different and much more confident when being able to not only discuss this game, but playing the mechanics of it.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't say, well, I mean, there's like tiers of player. I mean, if you look at the private server community, oh my God. Oh, I'm on the PV server, and it makes me cry watching the other people play, how bad they are. I'm sorry to say that. They're just 80% of them are so bad at the game. Mm-hmm. And I guess maybe I wouldn't say I say I'm good at the game, but there's a lot of people that are better than me.
Okay.
And I just don't, because I don't take it that seriously, right? I kind of just play. I just kind of do what I want on the game, and if I get bored of something, I'm like, all right, see ya, I'm done raiding now. See you guys.
So with your private server experience, when you say that you feel about 80% of the private server players are horrible PvE players, what kind of specific examples come to mind? What behavior do you generally see on a regular basis in private servers that make you think these people don't know what the fuck they're doing?
They backpedal, they keyboard turn,
mm-hmm.
and they can only do fights, and they can't, I was watching the Best Ellie Shaman stream. That's my brother Bob's, by the way, but I was just the best Ellie Shaman on Darius, I'm telling you. Mm-hmm. Anyways, he was doing Cthulhu, and basically it's the only fight that requires any personal responsibility in the entire first 3 tiers. Mm-hmm. And his guild would just wipe and wipe and wipe because no one could do anything right. And so they just steamroll all the other stuff because it's like stand there, auto attack, and maybe you run out and hide behind a wall while you have 5 stacks or something.
Now, when you say that those are the notes you've taken on the PvE scene on private servers, do you form the same opinion, or is it flipped a little bit when it comes to PvP?
Oh, well, PvP, just watching them. Most people just keyboard turn and backpedal, right? And they're carried by their Blackwing Lair spell power gear. Mm-hmm. It's mainly I would say mages. Mages are the most guilty of being carried by gear, but also I would say the worst players are hunters and warlocks from what I've experienced. I think it's because it's the pet. The pet kind of makes it so they don't really have to play as well while leveling, even though you don't really have to play that well while leveling. You just have to take your time and prepare so you don't get overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also argue that PvP makes you a better player in vanilla. Maybe not in retail, maybe not now, but PvP, all the best DPS and all the best raiders are also really good at PvP in vanilla from what I've noticed. I just think it's just mainly for vanilla entirely. PvP improves like every aspect of your gameplay from what I've experienced, just from seeing the type of people who kind of cross over and do both. And the pure PvEers are usually like, I'm going to be honest, they're usually not that good at the game.
Now, I just wanted to touch on, we mentioned earlier that you've had one particular movie on your channel, which is it seems to be, tell me if I'm wrong, easily the most popular one that you've put up. Oh, sorry, there was a League of Legends video that you put up that was very popular, but the second most popular one was, and something that people have talked about in regard to you online, is a video you uploaded showcasing how crazy you can get with a priest with the right wand or the right stats in conjunction with the wand. What can you tell me about what went into that movie?
Well, basically, it was one day, and I was like, man, I'm out of content. I don't know what to do. And like a couple months earlier, I was playing on my Dwarf Hunter at level 19. He's not very geared, but I still PvP with him the odd time. And I stumbled across a troll priest who was just sitting there wanding me. And he would kill me, right? I was like, man, I got to try this. And I had this idea in my head for so long. And I wanted to make my character troll, but I made an undead priest for a Tirisfal leveling route that I really liked, and I made a video on it. So I already had a level 10 priest. So I'm like, you know what? I may as well make this into my twin priest. So I leveled him to 19, and the quest to get the Black Father or the Blackstone Scepter was a nightmare. Apparently, I read and it said you had to go to Darnassus as a horde character to get the quest. Like, because the guys in Darnassus are neutral, and that's how it was in vanilla. But on private servers, they have the later version of it where the NPC is in Blackfathom Depths for the Greystone Scepter quest. Yeah, so they had both faction quests in the Blackfathom Depths. So basically, you kill, I think it's the second last boss. You collect something from him, you return it, and that wand, you have to be level 19 to enter Blackfathom Depths. So that wand. That's the one they use for level 29 twinks as well. That's how OP it is, and you can get it at 19. So there's a whole 10 level twink difference, and the level 19 one's the one they use. So I just went into the battleground. I don't have any enchants at all other than boot movement speed because I'm too cheap to farm anything and I'm too lazy. And I got like 30 kills my first game. I only recorded one or two games, I think, and I just made a video out of it, and I'm actually surprised. I'm going to be honest. I was not confident in that video when I uploaded it, and I'm not confident in most of my videos when I upload them. But somehow, some way, people liked what I made. So, I don't know. I just think I need to return to my roots kind of with the style of content I make. Although, it's just I don't really have the same passion for vanilla WoW anymore. Like, I'm excited for Classic, but I just don't want to burn myself out of private servers and not want to play Classic because this happens to me a lot. I get burnt out of games quite easily, and then once if I play it too much, every time I play it, all I can focus on is everything wrong with the game, and I'm just like, oh, I hate this about this game, and I just nonstop complain. And I noticed myself doing that with vanilla when I was like during the end of my streaming for it. I was leveling a Twink Warrior to 40, and then once I hit level 30, I don't know what it was. I just started getting really annoyed at everything in the game. So I'm like, I gotta take a break from this before I piss off the whole community and I don't want them to think I hate the game. It's just how I am with games.
No, that's more than fair enough. And I do understand. I completely get you on the burnout angle because a lot of listeners say to me, hey, Josh, jump on this particular private server and play with us. It'll be great. And I've been hesitant to just because I don't want to get too much vanilla in my system before Classic comes out because I'm afraid of the burnout as well. But in terms of what you might look towards while you're, as you say, you feel like you want to avoid vanilla a little bit for now while you're waiting for Classic, what will you turn towards?
Oh, well, I'm currently playing Ultima Online, which is like I'm making a series on it. And I want to make an MMO historian thing where I play Ultima, where I play Dark Age of Camelot, RuneScape, all these old MMOs. So that's what I'm going to be mainly focusing on, is trying to get that out and experience what these MMOs have to offer and see like how WoW was inspired by it. And from what I've seen in Ultima, I've seen a lot of stuff WoW took from Ultima, especially like honestly for a game in 1995, the UI is like it's bad now, but just thinking of how that must have been in 1995, the UI is so like cool and intuitive almost. Anyways, that's kind of going off topic.
No, that's fine. So just in relation to how it worked with WoW, that's a really interesting angle for me because I've got no experience in the older MMOs. World of Warcraft, sorry, I'm lying. It wasn't my first MMO. Final Fantasy XI was my first MMO. But before that, I know nothing. And I hear these names like Ultima Online and Dark Age of Camelot all the time, and I'm always intrigued, but I've never really delved into it much. Do you have much experience in those games?
Absolutely not. The first time I saw what Ultima Online looked like was literally 5 days ago. I saw there's a really good video on YouTube. It's the wildlife ecology update and how they spent 3 years or whatever, or 3 months. I don't remember. It was either 3 years or 3 months, something, developing this like ecology system where like the more predators, the less wildlife, and then the more grass, and then the predators would die, and then there would be more wildlife, and kind of how nature works. And they thought this would be cool. All players won't kill the wildlife, and it turns out that players just slaughtered everything because they got XP for it. And so yeah, I have no experience, and that's why I wanted to go back and try these. So it's been kind of a challenge unwiring my brain from all the modern quality of life stuff, but I'm kind of getting into Ultima. I made a friend. Shout out to what's his name again? Bobby. It was Bobby Big Biceps. Shout out to Bobby Big Biceps. If he ever watches this, I don't really know if he will.
You'll have to put him onto it. So going in this week into Ultima Online and anything else that you've checked out, you mentioned before generally, but do you know of anything specifically that stuck out to you straight away as being something that WoW quite obviously, quote unquote, borrowed from those games?
When you die in Ultima Online, you turn into a ghost and you have to run to a spirit healer to revive.
I see. Anything else about the UI or anything that stuck out?
When I go back and look at I don't know. WoW kind of had a lot of years technology-wise, but maybe the paper doll menu, which is like your character sheet, is kind of, but I wouldn't really say. I don't know. I think it's just WoW had so much, like 10, or it wasn't 10. It was WoW had 8 years of development time to make use of all the new technology, all of the new graphics engines. So their UI is a lot better than Ultima's is, of course, to be expected, right? So I wouldn't say anything, but I mean, there's other aspects of it, like the macro system. I just think WoW took inspiration from a lot of MMORPGs. Sure.
And I don't begrudge World of Warcraft at all for doing that. I think this kind of thing is rife, not only within the games industry, but just in basically the creative industry in general. I mean, the music industry basically wouldn't exist if we couldn't take inspiration from other work. So that's all well and good, but it is interesting to me. It is interesting to me to hear about the specific things that WoW sort of blatantly picked up and put in their game. But moving on from that, in this sort of history project that you're thinking about taking on, what are you going to be interested in sort of commenting on where you think the industry, or the genre, I should say, is moving towards in the future?
I mean, it's hard to tell, and it all depends on this. It all depends on the success of classic WoW. Because right now, here's the thing: MMORPG makers have the wrong idea of what people want from MMOs, and the player base doesn't know what they want either. And I know it's a you think you do, but you don't situation. It's not that. Hear me out here. Gameplay does not matter in an MMO. You can have the most boring gameplay and it does not matter. The only two things that matter in an MMORPG are, one, forcing players into playing together and forming communities, to take down challenging challenges or obstacles. And the second one is making a progression feeling or making a progression system that feels meaningful and fair. And the reason it feels meaningful and fair is because there's all these other people progressing to the same end goal. And if everyone has the same thing, then the progression is pointless. But if no one is able to get anything, well, then they're just going to quit. So you have to find a nice balance. And I think Vanilla WoW almost nailed it, although I think there's a little bit of burnout from raiding once you get to AQ, and I assume that's what I think a lot of people quit the game, is because they don't, like, you just don't get enough gear from, it takes so long to get 40 people geared up with how many pieces drop. And I think if the odd boss, maybe not every boss, but maybe there's a chance, or every second boss or something, drop one extra piece of gear more than the usual. And I'm not saying, like, this is not saying change the game or anything. I'm just saying, like, in general, from like just looking in on the game, if they did that back in the day, I feel like that might have been a little bit of a better solution.
In the interest of playing devil's advocate to what you just raised, if the gameplay of an MMO wasn't enjoyable or fun, then what would you say to people not being interested in those other aspects that you say are the two most important things?
So, like, if you look at all the new MMOs, they all, like, flashy gameplay, action combat, we can do backflips, there's explosions and horses and stuff. I mean, and then everyone quits these games. Why is that?
Fair point. So you're saying that fun isn't necessarily, I mean, whilst it might be important, it's not the driving feature that keeps people around.
Yeah, correct. I mean, like, but the thing is, you have more fun. Like, sure, like, look at Sea of Thieves. That game's fun. It's really fun to play, but you run out of things to do because there's no meaningful progression. And sure, when you're playing with your friends, it's a blast. But at the end of the day, after a couple hours, 10 hours of playing, 20 hours, you've just seen everything. You've seen you've experienced the gameplay loop, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing keeping you anchored there. What keeps people anchored to League of Legends is the ranked system and knowing that they can be better than people. What keeps people anchored to WoW, especially class. That's why people quit retail. And mainly the people that stick around for, like, the entire expansion are Mythic Raiders, because, I mean, Mythic raiding takes quite some time. And then after you're done the content, you're preparing for the next Mythic raid. And what keeps people anchored to classic WoW is the meaningful progression in a dangerous, believable world that's more like an immersive, believable world, and being able to see someone else with something you want and be like, I want to earn that, instead of just a week later having like full epics or whatever gear.
Got it. Now, what you've just given is a very eloquent answer, but am I right? I think now I do understand, like, in a nutshell, what you're saying. Tell me if you think this is a fair assessment of how you feel, in that the gameplay doesn't have to be fun. The fun is actually organically spawned from the community and the experience, and that's where the fun comes from. You can actually technically have a shitty gameplay, but that's where fun comes from if you build a tight-knit community with good progression. Is that a fair assessment of what you're saying?
Yeah, for the most part, but I'm not gonna say combat and gameplay does not matter at all. I mean, look at RuneScape. You just right-click shit. You just right-click things, and I mean, you just watch it, and it's a game people play on their other monitor, and some people even just focus on it entirely. But, like, it's still slightly important. You need to have a flashy, or not a flashy, sorry. You need to have, like, I feel like games need to be, like, polished. They need to be well presented. They need to feel fluid to play, but they don't have to be flashy, fast-paced ADD games like everything is now. It's okay to have a right-click and every 5 seconds use a button game and have your auto attack be your main thing. It's okay. That's not the most important thing in an MMORPG. Like, if I was to rank it, I would say number one. Okay, so number one is the forcing people to play as a community, to take down challenges. Number two would be the meaningful progression in a believable world. Number three would be immersion, and I think that's important in it. I think that is I think that's important in an MMO. And then gameplay comes after that, in my opinion. I also think music is equally as important in an MMO because, like,
So really, you just mentioned music. That's quite important to you in an MMO.
oh yeah, definitely. Like the moment I hear the Baron's music, the classic sound, it just immediately fills me with nostalgia. Even more so than seeing the game. When I'm just sitting there and I hear the RuneScape Barbarian Village music, it's like I immediately just crave. I just want to play RuneScape right there. If I see a RuneScape video, it's like, all right, RuneScape, cool. But if I hear the Barbarian Village music loud in my ear, it's like I just have to play the game.
Fair enough. How would you grade the World of Warcraft soundtrack?
Old World, I think the vanilla up to Cataclysm soundtrack is better than the modern one. The modern, I can't even think of one song from like Legion or Warlords even. I think Cataclysm did a good job with music as well. And I mean, Mop was alright, except some of the music's kind of just irritating, like in the Valley of Winds or whatever it is. The music in one of the zones is so walked out. It's like some kazoo thing. It's weird. It doesn't really feel Warcrafty, but yeah, I would say the old versions of WoW did a lot better with matching music to the zones, especially Barons and like the Tauren and everything.
Well, you mentioned the Barons track a couple of times now. And would you say you'd be able to name a top 3 favorite tracks from the original soundtrack?
From the original soundtrack, I would say definitely Barons is number 1. I like the Orgrimmar theme as well. And I don't know if this counts, but I find the ambience they put into Undercity with the bells and the Warcraft 3 cinematic is
totally
one of the coolest things. Yeah, one of the coolest things I've seen.
Yeah, no, I love it. I'm totally with you there. I think that the World of Warcraft soundtrack is something that, whilst people definitely appreciate, doesn't seem to get spoken about a lot, which is why I'd love just jumping on that with you just then. I'd definitely always happy to talk about that. But moving along to basically Classic. Now, how important do you think World of Warcraft Classic is to the MMO genre in general moving forward?
Well, that depends how successful Classic is going to be, and I personally think it's going to be quite successful considering the success of old school RuneScape, and WoW is a more popular game as it is. And did you see that the Nostalrius petition, 200k subs or 200k signatures over a private server? Imagine the people returning for WoW Classic, and I mean if WoW Classic can grab and maintain a population equal or like even a little bit less, but equal to Legion, I feel like it's definitely going to shape the way people make MMOs, and hopefully they'll realize that Dungeon Finder and all that stuff is not what makes people want to play a game. Not every game has to be convenient. Sometimes you just want to go on an adventure. You know what I mean?
In saying that, I'm sure, do you understand why the market has gravitated towards that LFD, LFR aspect in terms of, unfortunately, the larger proportion of players do seek that now in a shorter period of time MMO experience?
Well, I mean, like I've heard that argument and I understand it, and it's like valid in a way. But you have to look at the sub numbers. Did the sub numbers drop because WoW is an old game, or did the sub numbers drop because people can't find meaningful progression and community aspect in the game anymore, and kind of ripped the need to be social out of the game? And I look at all the new MMOs that come out; they kind of all fail, do they not? They all die, and they kind of fall. They kind of do the same thing as modern WoW's pursuing, and I feel like they're targeting the wrong thing. That's why I was commenting on what I think is important in an MMO, and that's why I think this.
Oh, I'm definitely not an advocate of the new style of MMO, and obviously retail, some people feel it's gone in that direction and other games go in that direction. That's not me. I do like the older sort of more drawn out version of vanilla. But I think secretly, obviously we hear from Blizzard and the reasons that they go in the directions that they do, but obviously they can't come out and just flat out say, well, we have to chase the market in the way that the market changes, and this kind of game change gives us a fatter bottom line. They'll never actually come out and directly say that. But I think the subtext is very much there. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree, but I just don't, I understand that. But I don't necessarily think, like, even though I feel like that's what they're pursuing. And obviously you can't take it away now that it's already in, because everyone that plays, or the vast majority of people that play retail WoW now like that kind of thing. But I would argue that there's a bigger market for an old school MMORPG. The market is bigger for that, and there's a huge demand for it that has not been met in years. And I feel like a market for an old school style MMORPG could potentially overtake WoW, even if it's WoW Classic, or even if it's Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, even though I haven't really seen much of that game, and I don't really have too much faith in it as of now. But like, even if Blizzard were to create a brand, well, I don't really have faith in Blizzard either, so it's kind of hard to say. But I do think I would argue that the market is bigger for old school MMOs than it is for new, flashy, ADD, convenience MMOs currently.
Interesting. Yeah, you make a good point and Blizzard have commented on this when you say what they've done is done. They can't step away from that now. And I think they've actually subtly commented on that when they started talking about Classic. And I wish I could remember who specifically it was. It might have been Ian Hazakostas who said, look, we can't take the oregano out of the proverbial spaghetti sauce. And that's what's happened with retail. And basically now what they've had to do is just give us a different pasta dish, which is what we're getting with World of Warcraft Classic, I guess.
Yep. I mean, just look at the reaction to them trying to take flying mounts out. I mean, I like that. I think it makes the game feel more lively when you first start, but I mean, there's like nonstop reading on the forums, so you just can't take stuff out that you've added into the game. You can't take convenience things out, because once they're gone, people will be mad.
Now, you mentioned to me when you contacted me about appearing on the show that you were also actually rather particularly passionate about class design in vanilla World of Warcraft. Is that right?
Oh yeah, I would say so. I just think and not necessarily just the class design, it's just the whole pace of the game is a lot more relaxed, and I don't have to be mashing my keyboard like in Legion. Like on Project 80, I play a warrior, and basically my auto attack is a button, and I just have to smash it, and it just gets really irritating. Like, I don't want to smash something nonstop. It's a meaningless button. I could be auto attacking and I wouldn't even notice. Like, I don't understand the need to just have something to be smashing all the time. Like with a warrior, especially Arms Warrior, because that's what I love. I love Arms Warrior in vanilla. And by the way, I play that in PvE as well, so too bad. I don't care if I'm knocking off the Sunder Armors with Mortal Strike, I'm still playing Arms. Anyways,
fair enough.
I'm a bad raider, by the way. They don't like me. They don't like me very much. Anyways, you just feel so, like, you just feel like a warrior. Like, you build up your rage with slow blows, and then you hit like a powerful Mortal Strike, for example, or an overpowered, it's just huge number instantly. And it just feels more impactful, in my opinion, the way the classes are designed, and they feel more, like, every class feels really unique. Like Warrior, the stance swapping thing, there's no other spec has anything like that. I guess you could compare Druid forms, and I wouldn't really compare that at all. And Druids, for example, like, you swap to Bear, you charge in, you swap to Cat, you do this. Like, I watch, there's one PvPer video, I can't remember his name, but he's like some insane Druid, and just watching him 2v1 as a Druid, a class that's considered not that good by many, but he's such a mastery of the class that, and it's just the way the classes are designed allow people to master them like that. It's kind of, there's a lot of hidden depths, and I would say especially Druid, and I know a lot of people, Hunters are considered like easy, but max level Hunter, I'd say Hunter and Druid are probably the hardest classes to play max level properly.
You just touched on something that I've come across a bit and I've always been really intrigued by. And as I say to my listeners, generally, you know, do take this with somewhat of a grain of salt. And I know my listeners hate it when I get sort of pre-prepared for a defensive statement, but this is more a question for you. From what you've just raised, when you see people kicking ass with a spec or a class that aren't known for it, and these are particularly skillful players who have just fucking worked it out and are really good at the game, when you see so many people say, oh my God, you're an idiot if you play that particular spec, or this spec can't do anything in PvP, and then you get the people who step up to the plate and say, well, no, I can prove you wrong, watch this. How do you feel about the way in which classes work in the game? Do you feel that Blizzard was blatantly trying or ignorant to certain specs or trying to push people to get the most out of certain specs?
Well, maybe a little bit, but I just think the game wasn't focused on rating. Not everything has to be balanced for rating. Like, look at Ellie Shamans, for example. Like, they go out of mana every 5 seconds. But, I mean, if you have enough Dark Runes and mana pods and you spam it, you spam your local druid for an innervate, you'll do good DPS, honestly. Like, I've seen Ellie Shamans pull decent numbers in raids, top 5. And this is a decent guild. So if you're a decent Ellie Shaman player, but here's the thing, though. The amount of work you have to put in to be a good Ellie Shaman or Rep Paladin is like 10 times the amount of work that you have to put in to be a good Fury Warrior. You have to have way more consumes. You have to have all the stuff. A Fury Warrior can come to raid with like a Mongoose pod and just hit a one-button macro. I know I play Fury Warrior in raid sometimes, and you just instantly get top DPS if you're geared enough. And another thing I have to say is, like, it's vanilla. It's not, the raids are so easy with 1.12 talents. Like, with 1.12 talents, who cares? You could bring a raid of Moonkins and clear Molten Core. I mean, if we're gonna have 1.1 talents, that's a different story. I'm ignorant on those. I don't know what I'm talking about. But whatever, with 1.1 talents, does not matter what you bring to raid. And like you can, or DPS wise, you can afford to bring like an Ellie Shaman, a Feral Druid, a Boomkin, or whatever you want. I'll bring a melee hunter. I don't care. I'm having fun. And it's not that challenging as it is. So I don't understand the people flaming, people trying to play Ellie Shaman or trying to like think outside of the box. And I mean, like I said, coming back to the game was not designed just around raiding. Ellie Shamans are insane in PvP. They're one of the best casters. They purge spam. They have mail gear. They have tons of armor. They have a shield. They pretty much beat melee. Like melee, I attack an Ellie Shaman and I'm dead from the lightning shield alone and auto attacks. Like, honestly, even with rank 11 gear, even though it's not rank 14 gear, but I just die because the lightning shield is insane and I get hit for like 1,500 frost shocks. So, I mean, a lot of classes are designed for different things. Some classes are designed for leveling, like Demonology, like Beast Mastery, it's for leveling. There's specs made for PvP, and then there's stuff designed for high DPS. There's stuff designed for utility. So, it's just, the game not all specs for every class has to be raid viable, is what I'm saying. And it doesn't matter if it is the most optimal. Like, who cares if you have an Ellie Shaman in the raid?
You said just then that you do consider vanilla raiding to be quite easy. And you also said earlier that you feel that Cthulhu is the first real moment of the game progression-wise that separates essentially the chaff from the wheat. Now, what do you mean exactly? When you say it's easy, do you just mean that you don't necessarily have to pay attention to group makeup, that you can sort of bring any class, any spec? Or do you mean that people can get away with being subpar players skill-wise and still cruise through the content?
Yeah, I mean, like the second option. Basically, from every raid I've experienced, it's 30 bad players, and there's like, okay, I won't say 30. There's a core of 15 really exceptional players, of 10 to 15 exceptional players in a guild, and the rest of them are either subpar or just plain, like, they just leave a lot to be desired. Let's just say that, to put it nicely. And like Molten Core and Blackwing Lair, all it is do you have enough? It's just all logistics. Did you come prepared for the raid with enough DPS and enough gear? And if yes, you just clear the raid. Like maybe Chromagus. Chromagus has, I have a bronze thing on my head. I run away. That's literally the only mechanic. I run behind this wall. And Cthulhu is where it starts kind of getting more, I mean AQ in general, but especially Cthulhu is where it starts getting more personal responsibility. And that's why you see a lot of guilds stuck on Cthulhu, because it's hard to get 40 players on a private server that are all like competent raiders. And this is not like, the raids are all down. Like the good guilds on the server is down every raid the first day it's out, other than Molten Core, of course, because you have to level. But like this is why I think in WoW Classic, if we're going to have 1.12 talents on launch, Molten Core will be cleared the same day there's enough people to go into it. Blackwing Lair will be down the first
6 hours because people will be pre-raid bits from Molten Core. All the best DPS in the guild will have the best gear. I think Cthulhu will go down the same day it launches or the same day they open up the servers. And I would even go as far to say, like, this is a bold one, but I'll put my name, I'll say it, and if I'm wrong, you can call me out on it. Kel'Thuzad will go down the same day Naxxramas is live on classic servers. Like, this is all.
Wow.
This is all considering if they do progressive release. Because if they just have like all 4 raids open on day 1, then obviously he's not going to go down day 1. But if people have had time to farm AQ gear, like a normal patch cycle, and Nax is opened up, Kel'Thuzad will go down the same day. I'm saying that right now.
I'll tell you what. While I don't completely disagree with you, I've been in the camp that's been saying I don't think that vanilla content in Classic, when it comes out, will be face rolled as much as people seem to think. Now, while I do agree with you somewhat that the higher end guilds will tear through it. I've got no doubt about that. I don't think the population en masse will all be so amazing at the game that they'll just be ripping through the content. But here's what I'll do. And I'm prepared to do this. Let me know if you're willing to be a bit of a good sport. I'm with you in that I think Kel'Thuzad will be taken down very fucking quickly. But in the interest of having a bit of fun, how about this? How about you and I have a $20 bet that within 24 hours, I say Kel'Thuzad will not be taken down in Classic. What do you think?
Dude, I'm down for that, man.
All right. Virtual handshake. It's on. And we've got a lot of witnesses right now.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Too easy. You have to remind me. You have to remind me about this one, okay?
Yeah, I don't even know if I'll remember. Someone of your viewers will for sure remember this.
We'll get one of the listeners to remind us for sure, but it'll be a bit of fun. But what do you think about, you said, face rolling in general? Like you said that Kel'Thuzad will go down really quickly. Do you agree with me that on the whole, people won't necessarily all be so good at the game that we're just tearing through this content?
Oh, for sure. But I do. It will definitely not take as long as it did in retail vanilla when it was around, but like it's not gonna. I feel like, I mean, I think there's still guilds. I mean, there's a casual guild on like a semi-casual guild on Darrowshire, which is a PvE server, and I think they're 11. They have 11 out of 14 bosses down in Nax, and it's been out for a couple of weeks. And I know the private server scripting is kind of wrong a lot of times, and maybe it makes it a face roll. Maybe they have all the armor values wrong, the health values, who knows. But I feel like that's a good estimate of what the normal guild would be. They'll be like, maybe it'll take them a month to down Kel'Thuzad, or a month and a half, or maybe even 2 if they're like even more casual. It really depends on how much they raid and how seriously you take it.
Sure. And the more and more I think about it, the more I think I probably have just already lost $20, but that's all well and good. Yeah, maybe Blizzard will somehow retune the raid for me.
The are going to get you.
Yeah, totally. We'll see what happens. Come on, Blizzard, make Kel'Thuzad really OP. Let's see what happens. Okay. With all that being done, what we do here on the show is we have a segment called Anger Management, where I ask the interviewee to pick a particular topic that you really, really get angry about, that you really want to get off your chest and rant about for about 30 to 60 seconds. So the big fish, anger management. Have you got something that you really want to go nuts about the World of Warcraft?
Well, honestly, I'm really getting sick of what class should you play in vanilla WoW, guys. Like, every single person and their mom has been making those exact same videos. They're all the same. Half of them aren't even scripted. So you basically have what I've been doing in this video or this interview, which is and then you do this, and then they repeat themselves 6 times. And I'm like, how can anyone watch this when every single person has made a guide, and a lot of people have made really good ones? So please, we do not need any more what class should be playing in classic WoW guides. And we need another thing. I feel like a lot of these people, I'm sorry, this might hurt your feelings, guys, but I feel like a lot of you enjoy talking about the game and reminiscing about it. And like, especially for the private server community, they just like talking about servers and like hyping them up, and then they level to 20, they quit. and then they shit talk the server, and then they re-roll to a new one. It's like, I honestly think they just like talking about the game more than they actually like playing the game.
Yeah, where's the loyalty amongst people that pirate video games these days? What's going on?
Yeah, dude.
All right, thanks very much for that, mate. Now we'll move on to our next segment where I put you on the hot seat and I've got 10 fun questions for you. You ready to go?
Sure, man. I'm ready.
All right. Question number 1. Ruling out when is Classic coming out, or will there be changes? If you could ask one Classic-related question of the devs right now, what would it be?
If I could ask one question, it would be, are we going with 1.1 talents or 1.12? Because I feel like that's a very important thing they need to decide. And I feel like that's the main thing that needs to be addressed. Like, sure, I'm pretty sure we can all assume we're all going with the content, the raid progression release thing, the talent progression. Are we starting 1.1, progressing to 1.12, or are we starting with 1.12 talents? And I feel like we need to talk about this before we consider anything else with the game, because the balance of the talents is insanely different. So that's the most important thing I would like to know right away.
Sure thing. Next question. Now, you're familiar with the game Fuck, Marry, Kill?
Yep.
All right. Fuck, Marry, Kill. And I'll give you, because we've just spoken about other MMOs a little bit, I'll give you 3 MMOs that you've mentioned you've dabbled in. Ultima Online, RuneScape, and Dark Age of Camelot. Fuck, Marry, Kill. Which one have you got?
Well, I've never played Dark Age of Camelot, so I'd kill that one.
Okay.
I mean, I'd probably be more likely to spend a lot of time with RuneScape, so I'd marry RuneScape, and then, yeah, the last one, I'm pretty sure Ultima, that's just a one-time thing, you know?
Sure. Just that one time you got drunk and maybe you won't call it back, who knows?
Yeah, man.
All right. Now, if you were stuck on a desert island with one NPC from World of Warcraft, who would it be and why?
Oh man, this one's tricky. I have to think about this one.
Sure, go for it.
I want to say Mankirk, but that's like, that doesn't really make sense. Who wants to be on an island with Mankirk?
Mankirk. Well, yeah. Well, you know, he's.
I'm going with Mankirk. I don't even know why. I'm just gonna say it. That's the only thing coming to my mind.
Well, Mankirk's a swinging single now. His wife's not around, so he's got time to party. Who knows?
Oh no, man.
Okay, we'll go with Mankirk. That's all right. Maybe he's got a bunch of stories to tell while you're stuck on the desert island, or he can tell you about his wife the whole time.
He can use his raids, and we can build a raft and swim to safety. He has to get those crowbars, man. Nothing's gonna keep him on that island for that long.
That's right. All right, next question. What's the meanest thing that you've ever done in the game?
The meanest thing? I'm gonna be laughing while saying this, but in Darrowshire, Alterac Valley, when I was ranking, the Alliance, every time the Horde would get to their bridge, they would recall all hunters and mages and stall the game out until they won. So, one of these times, me and another guy on the server named Crumble, we had enough, you know? We had enough. So we're like, alright, we'll just pretend to let them win. We full turtle, we push them all the way back to the Frostbolt Graveyard. I think that's the second one. That's not the one in the base. The relief hut's in the base. So yeah, it's the Frostbolt Graveyard. We push them there. I'm spamming, don't cap the flag. Do not cap the flag. So no one caps it. And we just have Blizzard, Hellfires, and AoE on the respawn. So we were just honor farming them, and every time they respawn, instant death. And we did that for we did that for so long, and eventually they ran back to the next graveyard. So we capped this one, push them back, and just farm them, not capping. We just did that all the way, and it ended with Snowfall Graveyard. You know, the one with the bridge?
Yeah.
We were all just sitting there, just farming them for like an hour until there was like 20 of them AFK'd out. It was like 40 versus 20, and we just won. And I would do that every time Alliance would recall. We would initiate the graveyard farming, and I did that for the entire AV weekend. I think 2 AV weekends actually. where I was, and someone came into my stream, and it was an alliance. It was a gnome warrior from the alliance. He just hit level 60, and he wanted to know my information so he could come and fight me. So that's how mad he was. So that's probably the meanest thing I've done in World of Warcraft. And there's people on the Discord telling me I'm a horrible person, and I was just laughing the whole time.
Very good. All right, moving on from that. What class would you say you kick ass at, and what class would you say you suck at?
I suck at Shaman, and I'm good at Warrior, I would say. I would say I'm like above. There's like above average, but I'm above average, so I'm a good Warrior. I'm not an insane Warrior or anything, but I'm just a good Warrior.
Okay. Do you have a proudest in-game moment?
Honestly, probably when I those turtle AVs when after that alliance after we were doing that for a couple weeks or 2 weeks, and then alliance eventually recalled a full 40-man turtle, and I was leading the raid this entire time, and we eventually pushed through and won that AV. So honestly, just winning that turtle AV with the Alliance Dumbledore bridge without using the back door is honestly probably one of the most. It just was the most. How do I word this? It's just the most. I can't think of the word I'm going for here.
No, you're so enamored with emotion over the moment, you can't even put it into words. I appreciate that.
No, it was just the most epic feeling I've had in a long time playing a game. It was like I just had so much adrenaline. I was just hyped as hell when we won that, and everyone was like spamming in chat, and yeah, it was one of some of the better memories I have from that server.
No, totally, I love it. One of these days, I'm going to try and make a guest cry when they're so happy about reliving their proudest moment. I'll get someone, I swear to God.
Nice. No, man, I'm not going to cry about it. I just have a big shit-eating grin on my face, though, just thinking about all the rage messages I got.
Fair enough. No, Alterac Valley is the source for a lot of people's favorite in-game moments. But moving on, do you have a most embarrassing in-game moment?
I mean, I could go back to Cataclysm when I was playing with a guild, and this was I was young when Cataclysm was out. I think I was 14 or something. So I was raiding with my guild. It was Blackwing Descent, and I had to go eat supper, right? So I just left in the middle of the raid. I told them that. And when I came back, I saw that I wasn't in the raid, and it was 30 minutes, so I was mad, right? So instead of just asking them, hey, what happened? I just assumed they removed me from the guild, or from the raid, and I wasn't getting back in. So I just started asking, and I typed in trade chat. I'm looking for new guild, and then I got removed from the guild, and I was really sad. And it was a huge embarrassment because I liked that guild.
Okay. Now, what is your best guess for the release date of World of Warcraft Classic?
See, I wanted to say anywhere from November of this year to early February of 2019. So I'm going to go with the latest possible prediction of February or spring 2019 is my prediction.
Interesting. A lot of people are starting to, some people are starting to rule out, obviously, this year, but this year is the 14th anniversary in November. I fucked it up on a previous podcast and said that next year was the 14th anniversary, but obviously that's not the case. But you still feel that this year is a possibility? Yeah,
I think it's a possibility, depending on, it all depends on how long Battle for Azeroth's content lasts, and I honestly think that the audiences aren't really going to overlap as much as Blizzard, or as, I don't know what Blizzard thinks, but as much as people think. So, and it's another way to, I feel like if they do a shared sub thing, so if you sub for one, you get the other, it will increase their sub numbers, and people will be more willing to swap between the two. So I don't necessarily think they need to release it during a major content drought.
Okay. Tell me the moment that you fell in love with World of Warcraft.
And it was when I had made my first Orc Warrior. This was my first character ever named. I can't remember, what was his name again? It was it was Globber or something. Or Clobber, I don't remember. And leveled him to 5. I ran out, the hidden path. I ran out there and I got killed I got killed by crocodiles in the barrens, and I didn't know what to do, so I deleted him. Mm-hmm. And then Like, I was in love with the game already then.
Right.
And then I leveled to 7 as a gnome warlock, and that was the highest level character because I was sharing an account with my brother at the time.
Mm-hmm.
We were really young when I started. I was like I said, I was 11, I think. And yeah, basically, so I fell in love with the game then, and then the rest is history with my Ugly Tusk, which is one of my third characters, and it was the character I ended up sticking with past level 10.
Sure. Now, last question. You're doing so well, but we're almost done. Tell me why you, the big fish, are most excited for World of Warcraft Classic.
Well, basically, I just think it's going to be really fun. It's going to be really fun playing or doing all the old raids with the meme guild that I plan on building of meme specs and shitter specs. So that's pretty much why I'm excited. And just I've kind of been hanging out with other YouTube guys lately. So just playing with them and all their fans or whatever, and just chilling with my friends, playing, leveling up, just having a good time. I don't know. I just want some fresh server, man. In need of a fresh.
All right, the big fish, thanks so much for coming on the show. Please, one more time, feel free, plug your stuff. Mention, you said you're doing a MMO historian piece or a series on YouTube. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And have you decided on a name yet for that one?
So far I'm leaning towards MMO historian, but it's still in the air right now. I've been working on it, and it's basically going to consist of starting off, it's going to be history of the game, the development, then it's going to be like huge moments that happened in the game. I want to try to find like a veteran for every game that has played a lot, and I want to talk to them about it. And then I do a first impressions, like where it's like a let's play thing where it's just me playing the game, and where it's just me playing the game, and you see my first reactions. Even though I'm kind of boring, I kind of just sit there and like I say like one word, and like I'll spice it up, spice it up.
Sure.
And I'll finish it off with my final thoughts, what I liked about the game, and if I really like the game, I'll probably continue it for like 10 episodes of 10 episodes of a progression series. And at the end of my time playing the game, I'll do a final closing thoughts on the game after whenever I'm done playing. So that's the plan I have. And you can find that on youtube.com/TheBigFish Classic WoW and more. And I might even stream some of this on Twitch TV/TheBKBigFish. And by the way, I do stream nearly every day at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is, so 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So yeah, if you want to watch some stream with horrendous voice cracks and everything else about me, then feel free to tune in and follow me on Twitch.
All right. Thanks so much again for coming on, and I'm sure people will head out and check out your stuff if they've enjoyed the interview. But thanks again, and hopefully we'll talk to you sometime later on.
Yeah, man, thanks. It was a pleasure.
Hey everyone, it's me again. I hope you all enjoyed that great chat with the big fish, and thank you so much to him again for taking the time out for the show. If you've got any comments or feedback about that, then please do get in touch with the show at feedback@countdowntoclassic.com. But with that done, let's get to a few listener calls with Calling Countdown. Okay, we've got another caller on the line now, and who do we have, and where in the world are you calling from?
This is Party Pooper, and I'm from Colorado in the United States of America.
Fantastic. And what did you want to talk about today?
I kind of wanted to just talk about vanilla gold farming, and it seems to be a pretty big point in vanilla, as getting gold is pretty tough, and a lot of new players just don't really know where to go to get it.
Okay, so what did you do back in the day, or what tips would you have for people?
Well, it's kind of class dependent. I mostly play a warrior, so on a warrior, it's kind of a pain in the butt to get gold. But the first and most important thing you can do while leveling up specifically to make more gold is get skinning. That's gonna make a paramount effect in the amount of gold that you have once you hit level 40 and once you hit level 60.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much, you just take all those skins that you're getting, and for the most part, I mean, if you're on a fresh server, you're not going to be able to sell those on the auction house, and there's going to be a lot of other skinners. So you're pretty much just going to take all those skins, you're going to sell them off, vendor them, get rid of them, and you're going to make a bunch of extra static gold for putting in, 3 to 5 seconds per kill, just getting those skins. And a lot of people, when they get to level 40, they don't have enough gold to buy their level 40 mount. And if you get skinning, that'll break that gap. That'll help you make an additional 10 to 20 gold by the time you actually hit level 40, and you should be able to get your mount at level 40. And I've personally, every time that I've leveled up, every time I get to level 40, I have enough gold to get my level 40 mount, which seems to be an issue for a lot of players.
Interesting. So you say the path of least resistance is actually just to bite the bullet and vendor all the skins. Don't try and waste time selling it on the auction house as you're leveling in the early stages.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd say that would ring true. Probably the only leather that I would suggest actually, maybe taking some time to try and sell in the auction house is thick leather, just because it doesn't come quite as much as all the other leathers. Mm-hmm. But that being said, when you're putting those leathers on the auction house, a lot of times you're going to be spending a significant amount of your money just posting those auctions. And a lot of times they're not going to sell because there are going to be so many other skinners out there that there's going to be a pretty low demand for leather at the very beginning of a fresh server.
Interesting. I've never even considered that. But one thing I'd pick up on from that is you jump straight to skinning, and obviously, as you say, for the vendoring purposes. But I often find myself, when I start a new character, I always jump on Google and I always try and remind myself, what's better, mining, herbalism, or skinning? What's going to make me more money? Have you dabbled in the other two and tried to compare?
Yeah, absolutely. It really kind of depends on a few different things. So it really depends on your class. Like, let's say you're a mage, you're probably going to want to take mining, because when you get to level 60 and you start gold farming at level 60, a lot of what your gold farming is going to be is sitting in Black Rock depths, just farming all those mobs. And then you make an additional amount of gold by mining all the dark iron ore in Black Rock depths. Mm. And for instance, if you're a warrior, though, you're not going to have that option. You're never going to be able to solo an instance and AoE down mobs. So you need to be able to make that gold off of, singular mobs that you're killing. Whereas for other classes, it's, it's really just dependent on your class. If you're, and really what your plan is when you do hit level 60. I would say no matter what class you are, though, having skinning is going to benefit you, because by the time you hit 40, you'll be able to get that mount. It'll save you a bunch of trouble. I mean, you've been walking around for 40 levels, so the last thing you want to do is walk around even more when you're at that level that you can actually start mounting up at. Mm-hmm. And as far as herbalism, though, like when you hit level 60, herbalism makes a lot of gold. I mean, farming in our Ashara for dream foil to running around in Winter Spring getting I think it's mountain silver sage. It's mountain something. I can't remember the herb off the top of my head right now. But also later on in the game, when black lotuses become bind on equip rather than bind on pickup, you can make a ton of gold selling those. I think they go for anywhere from 40 to 60 gold per.
So you've basically, you ding 60. You're now at the stage where you're trying to figure out how to make more and more money. What do you do at that stage? You've just mentioned a few class-specific things, but on the whole, generally, after you've gone through your money-making schemes and gotten your 40, gotten your 60 mount, what do you do then to become just the richest man on the server?
I guess there's a couple things in general for that apply to every single class. One of the most important things to pretty much just making static gold with putting very little effort in is play the auction house. There are so many people who throw auctions up there for a very little amount. You'll see an item that's going for 10 gold and you'll see someone post it for 2 gold and, just buy it, split the difference. Right there, you made 3 gold for putting in 30 seconds of effort. And playing the auction house, really using your professions makes a ton of money no matter what profession you go. if you're a leather worker and, you know, you notice that a lot of people need those Devil Sword leggings and those Devil Sword gauntlets, you know, charge them 5 gold to make them for them. Tell them to bring their mats or go and buy the mats or farm the mats and, you know, sell them on the auction house and make a steady profit that way. And I'd say for everyone, the auction house, using your professions, whether that's, you know, if you're an enchanter sitting in Orgrimmar just spamming, oh, hey, you know, I'll sell you this enchant. You know, my mats, it'll cost you 5 gold. If you bring your mats, you tip me 1 gold and that's it. And I guess that, you know, those are the 2 major things for every class, you know, professions in the auction house. But within specific classes, there's a lot of different things you can do. Like I said, with a mage, farming BRD or Blackrock Depths is amazing gold. As a warrior, you don't have too many options outside of using your professions and playing the auction house. But what I did on my warrior and have done a few times is I'll go down to Ungoro Crater and I'll start farming Devil Sword, which sells for anywhere between 10 and 20 gold per leather. And it's a pretty sparse, supply of Devil Sword. And you can make a lot of money that way, even though it's really tough because there is a lot of competition.
I was going to say, did you bump into the Mafia?
I was in the Mafia for a little bit, and it was hellish. I'll tell you that. I stayed in the Mafia for about 2 or 3 weeks before I decided to post on the forums and give away all the information that they gave me for farming it, because I was like, I don't think it's fair that, you know, that we're sitting here holding this monopoly and, you know, making everyone suffer for it, as well as there were times, man, basically in the Mafia, let's say that you're sitting down in Ungoro Crater and you've been there farming for 8 hours. They make it so that if you want to leave the crater, you got to find a replacement first. So there was a day that I sat there for 20 hours straight farming Devil Sword. I was like, dude, I'm so done with this. Like, I don't want to spend my time in a video game where I'm supposed to be enjoying myself and feeling like I'm working a job.
Definitely, and not having anyone to tag out with, like you feel locked in, and then I suppose you get a bit of backlash if you just say, well, fuck you all, I'm fucking leaving, I've got better things to do.
Exactly. If you're playing a warlock or a druid, you can go into Maradon, and you can farm Princess over and over and over again. You know, you skip all the mobs, you go to the very last boss, Princess something or other, and you just kill her repeatedly because she's super easy to kill or to solo as one of those classes. And then you just disenchant, the blue item, sell the large brilliant shard on the auction house, and every run you make 5 or 10 gold that way.
Nice. Tell me, did you get any backlash, just interestingly, from when you posted on the forums about what the Mafia was doing? Did they come after you at all?
Initially, they all went apeshit. Like, I had so many messages in my Discord of people being like, oh, you know, you're blacklisted. We're going to come for you. I'm going to find you, dude. And I'm going to wreck you. And it's just endless messages of hate. And I just kind of blocked all those people and was like, whatever, man. You know, at the end of the day, you're just mad that I gave out some information to other people. And actually, it's still, that forum post is still there. There's only a few posts on it, but for people that are looking for a Devil Sword guide that the Mafia actually uses, I have a Google Docs of it that I just left there, and it's up on like the Elysium forum.
Oh, okay. And do you remember the title of it or anything?
I'm pretty sure if you Google Devil Sword Mafia Guide Elysium, it'll pop up as the first search result, and it's a post by Mojo Caster.
Nice. Excellent. Now, one thing you said, obviously, I can't agree with you more. I'm a huge advocate of playing the auction house. That's, if, you know, for all my stupid shortcomings that I, you know, give people the shits about when I talk about too much on the show, the one thing that I could confidently say about my time in World of Warcraft was that I was an auction house guru, and I made a boatload of money doing exactly what you just said. And for listeners of the show who either haven't done it before or are playing the game for the first time when they come into Classic, I can't tell you enough. Absolutely, I agree with Party Pooper. Spend some time on the auction house, essentially treat it like eBay, buy things, resell them, because I actually, tell me if you were like this, I got to the point where I was spending almost as much time just on the auction house as I was questing and playing the actual game. I could only play about 15 hours a week back in the day, not that much. But I would say of those 15 hours, 3 or 4 of those hours were on the auction house.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Not as much for me later in my gaming life. I guess, nowadays I really just like getting out into the world. But when I was like back in vanilla, when I was like 11 years old, I would sit there, that would be me enjoying the game, is just sitting there on the auction house and buying and selling. And I think as a level 45 rogue, I had 12 or 1300 gold, which was kind of unheard of for someone that level, just because I'd sit there, buy and sell. I'd find an item that there's only, 4 or 5 of them on the auction house. I'd buy all of them, and then I'd repost them, twice as high. Yep. And, lo and behold, half of them would sell.
Yep, definitely. I'll never forget. It was, I wish I could remember what item, but I got a really low priced blue as my first inroad into making gold. I thought, oh God, that's selling for 10. It should be 40 or something like that. And I jumped on it, and that gave me my startup cash to get involved. And I fell in love with it, and I flowed on from there.
Oh yeah. I absolutely loved it. It's actually, honestly, it's a big reason as to what I do nowadays for work. Just that was my lead into learning about economics in general, and kind of that whole idea of day trading and all that fun stuff.
Well, what's your general opinion of the living organism that is the WoW economy?
I think it's it's kind of like a microcosm of the real world, you could say. You've got supply and demand. You have all these items that if it's, for instance, if it's a blue sapphire, which is, used for a very high end helmet that warriors use called Lionheart Helm, you'll see it going for 4 or 5 gold a piece, down to, it's heavy leather, so it's only selling for 20 silver a stack because so many people can get heavy leather, because we got a bajillion different level 30s to 40s that all are getting it at the same time. And I absolutely love it. It's really like its own microcosm of the world, economically.
Thanks so much for calling in, Party Pooper. Unfortunately, I'll have to stop it here as I've got a couple of other calls to get to. But thank you so much for calling in, and we hope to hear from you again in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
We've got a caller in the line, and who have we got, and where in the world are you calling from?
Hi, this is Tsunami. I am calling from Michigan.
Thank you for calling, Tsunami. And what did you want to talk about today?
I'm here to talk about that I didn't actually play vanilla when it was live, but I fell in love with the game when I started playing on private servers.
Okay, and that's what made you look forward to Classic, is it?
Yes, I am super pumped about it. I really enjoy the private servers, but there are a lot of problems with them. These are people volunteering to do this work. So it's not perfect. So there are a lot of things that I want to see it as Blizzard intended it to be.
It's quite interesting to take a call from someone like yourself. The reason being, the vast majority of people that we get on the show are obviously people that not only played vanilla, but so many callers and interviewees that I've dealt with played vanilla almost from day one. A lot of people have been like, no, I was pretty much within 1 to 2 months of opening day. So it's great to talk to someone who wasn't there from the outset. When did you actually start with World of Warcraft?
I am actually a Wrath baby.
Oh, nice.
I started Wrath of the Lich King right before I think Cataclysm started. So it was kind of odd because I started this game and it completely changed like a couple of months later. So, and I really enjoyed Wrath, but then I came to Cata. It was fun, but I didn't play for very long. I was raiding last year. I did Nighthold. I'm currently subbed right now. I am playing on private servers, but I'm still trying to contribute.
Nice. I've already got so many questions are running through my head just in terms of when you joined the game. So you mentioned that it was late Wrath that you came in. Was it just a couple of months before Cata?
Yes, it was shortly before Cata dropped.
Okay, so what was it like for you going through the landscape of the game through Wrath? And I guess, you could have did you hit level cap before Cata came out or not quite?
No, I didn't. I was a terrible player. When I went in, I didn't even know I could set hotkeys. I was just clicking on all of my buttons, and I was just like, I had no idea what I was doing.
So what was it like when you saw the landscape and you were leveling through it all, only to have it completely overhauled in Kata?
Well,
as you were doing it,
was,
I guess.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. I love the landscape of WoW. I love the environment, and it was, I don't know, it was just strange. It's so long ago, it's hard to remember everything, but I don't know. It was kind of crazy.
So bringing it back to Classic, when you first subbed, and let's say, you know, those first 12 months that you're falling in love with the game through Wrath and Cataclysm, did you ask people or did you hear word on the grapevine of the vanilla days?
No, there wasn't. I didn't talk too much to people. I played with a friend of mine. So I didn't get too involved with with everyone else.
So when did you tap out?
I don't think it was that long into Cataclysm, actually. But it's funny because I played that for a couple of months, but then a couple of years, maybe like 5 years ago, I started playing on the vanilla, the private servers, and I just absolutely fell in love with the game.
Okay, so what pushed you to the private server community?
Actually, it was a bonding experience between myself and my boyfriend. He came to visit me, and we started playing together. And it was just a bonding moment for us. Nice.
So was he already into the private server scene and asked you to come on board?
Yes, he has been playing since, I think it's Scriptcraft. So it's been a while. We started playing, I think it was on a Phoenix server called Emerald Dream.
Awesome. Okay, so it sounds like you've amassed quite a bit of private server experience. What were your initial thoughts of diving into the private server and, you know, you're getting that first wave of vanilla?
It was a totally different experience from what I had from Wrath and Kata because there was such an environment. Like the people there were just so wonderful. Everybody was trying to help each other. It was a sense of community. And I don't feel like I get that nowadays. I mean, I do in my guild while we're raiding, but it's just so different because you need people to play vanilla. You just need them to complete quests, do your dungeons. You just can't go out on your own and level to 60 or wherever, like 110 today.
Well, with as many years private server experience that you've got under your belt now, perhaps a few more than most people I talk to. A lot of people I talk to are sort of only 2 to 3 years into it. If you've been doing it for 5 years, have you noticed, and you might have just alluded to it, a change in the attitudes of the private server scene and the community?
Well, there are, I guess, more casual players coming in that aren't familiar with it, but I think they're coming in trying to get practice for Classic that's coming out because they didn't get to experience this and they want to see what it's all about. And
so once you had a bit of time spent on a private server versus the time you'd spent on retail, which did you prefer?
Oh, definitely the private server. I mean, I really want to play Classic because I want to, contribute to Blizzard because this is their game. And it's vanilla. It's the community. It's everybody coming together. I love it.
Did you, I mean, obviously you fell in love with it for various reasons, but what particular element of it, was there one that stood out? Was it the slowed down nature of it? Was it the grindy nature, the more hardcore elements, or was it changes to professions or classes? What particular thing really appealed to you?
Actually, it's what the game is so rewarding. You, like the first time you get a green and you have stats on it, it doesn't matter what the stats are. You're just so excited. You've been wearing whites forever. And it's just, you have a sense of progression. And I feel like you just fly through it now. There's just no, you don't feel rewarded. And now, I mean, it's a real sense of being rewarded for your hard work.
You mentioned that a lot of people on private servers now might be the kind of tourists who are coming in just to sample a few classes to figure out what they want to do in Classic. Have you figured out definitely what you want to do in Classic via your recent experience in private servers?
Well, I've leveled a shaman for the first time, and I absolutely love it. But it does have a very high skill cap, and I am going to play on a PvE server when it comes out, because the PvP servers, they are scary. But I think I'm going to stick with what I know best, either a mage or a priest. I don't know. I think I'll level as a shadow priest and then go into a holy priest once I get to raiding.
Okay, your heart lies with the casters, does it?
Yes, it does.
Okay. What was the first class that you rolled in game?
Actually, it was a rogue. I was a rogue, and I was really bad. I'm not very good at melee, and I didn't know how to play it. I was like, oh yeah, I can get a bow and arrow or something. I don't know, but no, it's not like that at all. But it was a lot of fun. I think I didn't cap the first time. I think I got into the 50s, and then I stopped because the server I was on, the Emerald Dream, it had a lot of scripting issues. It wasn't perfect, but back then, before NOS came out, I mean, that was like, oh, this is so great.
Let me ask this. For people who haven't played vanilla and perhaps haven't played on private servers, what kind of experience do you think they should expect when they finally open their eyes to this world of vanilla when Classic comes out for the very first time?
It's not going to be easy, but it is, like I said, it's very rewarding, and you will need other people to get through the game. You will need to speak with them. You'll need to group up with them. And we were having this conversation in somebody's stream about, like, in vanilla, how long can you go without talking to somebody in chat, and because you need them for a quest, versus today, how long can you go without talking to somebody in chat? And for vanilla, for me, once you get to the Hogger quest, you need people. Like, that's at the very beginning. That's a very low level quest. Today, you can pretty much level all the way to 110, and you can do dungeons, you can do looking for group. So it's, you're going to need to be involved in your community. So if you want to play by yourself, it's fine. You could probably, and you'll enjoy it, but it might not be for you.
That's a great point. I'm one of those players who I'm quite pedantic about clearing out my quest log. I do not like having what I would refer to as a messy quest log. I want to check everything off, get it all done, and then sort of, lather, rinse, and repeat, and pick up new quests and things like that. And when I just have that group quest sitting there for ages because I couldn't find anyone to do it with, it really pissed me off. And I noticed when I jumped into the private server scene, as you said, I had totally forgotten how early I had to start reaching out to people. And it was kind of not frustrating, but it was an interesting wrinkle, and also something that I loved as well. And people just like, yep, we all know what we've got to do. Let's do it. Have fun. And I love that element of the game.
Yes, that's one of my favorite parts. And you meet so many new people. And this is another thing about vanilla that I really like. You don't have cross servers. So when you help somebody out on these servers, they will remember your name. So you also can't be a jerk on these servers, because people will remember your name. So when you're in a dungeon, you can't just quit in the middle of it. If you do something like that, people will remember, and they will not invite you back into their group.
Okay, last question for you. You mentioned that you play WoW with a significant other, and I've had quite a few people approach me about some fun stories about trying to get their significant other into the game. What advice would you have for people who are trying to do that, who are trying to incorporate WoW into their love life?
Well, it's, that's a hard question. Yeah, that's a tough one, because if they're not into games, that's going to be kind of difficult to convince them. But they could just come in and try out, actually read the quests and, get involved in the lore, because the lore is so deep in WoW and it's great. It's a lot of fun. But that's so difficult. I don't know.
No, I appreciate what you're saying. That's a very good point, because it often does start with the lore. I had someone contacting me recently. Apologies to whoever it might have been. I can't remember your name in the Discord, but someone did mention that they're getting their girlfriend into the game and they started step 1 with the lore, because if they're not going to get hooked by the story of the game, then all is essentially lost. But it's quite easy to hook people through a fun narrative, and they might be like, oh, I'll check out that. These characters sound cool.
Yeah, and the story is very deep. It's not thrown into your face in vanilla. So you have to, if you know some of the background before you come into it, you will enjoy it so much more.
All right, everyone, you heard it here first. Get that significant other reading. So, Tsunami, thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
And that's been Calling Countdown for the week. Just before I let you go, I've got a quick bit of big show news for you. Countdown to Classic is now on Patreon. Please do check out the link on the website for all the awesome rewards on offer there. There's also a link in the show notes. Now, just to let you all know, there is no locked content moving forward for Countdown to Classic. So you'll still get your 3 helpings of Countdown per week for free. But if you want to enhance your experience with the show, then please do just go have a browse, as there'll be fun things like 2 different tiers of monthly WoW-related giveaways, early access to interviews like today's one with the Big Fish, and also the opportunity to co-host on a semi-regular basis with me. Now, if a monthly purchase isn't quite for you, then I've also opened up a page on Ko-Fi where you can buy the show a coffee if you've been thoroughly enjoying what I've been bringing you thus far. This money helps go towards overheads and also will go into funding prizes as well. And if I score a beer or 2 out of it, then I will not complain. But outside of that, you can still show your ongoing support for the show for free by simply continuing to download and listen to the show, and also by throwing me a quick review on iTunes, which really helps, or by telling a friend about the show. Word of mouth, everyone. Tell your guildies in-game that you're listening to Countdown to Classic while you play. Every little whisper helps so much and allows our little community here to grow even more than it already has. Anyway, with all that said, I shall head off and see you again on Wednesday with another interview with listener of the show, Hoth, all about guild leadership. It's a great chat, so stay tuned for that one. See you all then. Bye.